All right, it's February 2023, and there are some changes in the San Diego real estate market again. I'm Kurt Wannebo, team leader here at the Wannebo Real Estate Group and eXp Realty, and I'm excited to share some new information that everyone should be aware of, especially if they've been considering buying or selling in this market, because things have changed again. So let's first dive into some of the data points that I pay attention to and give a story in regards to what's going on in this market. The first thing I'll talk about here is our median price in San Diego. And what's interesting about this is that this is a data point that hasn't changed. In fact, our median price came in for January exactly the same as it was in December, which is exactly the same as it was in November 2022. So what does that mean? Well, three data points to me makes a trend. And what we've seen is a stabilization of pricing. Now, this pricing is down 13% from our peak back in April and May. So it's important to understand, though, even though we've come down 13%, there is a stabilization. Now, if you want to understand real estate is local, there are a lot of other areas of San Diego, including some zip codes that I work in and look at and track that have actually come down in some instances 20 or 30% since the peak. Those are areas traditionally that, or when the market was hot, they went up more. They went up 20, 30%, then they thus have come down 20, 30% as well. There are even some pockets and areas in San Diego County where we're actually seeing pricing increase. I'll give you an example here in Carmel Valley, an area that I work at a lot. If you take this peak pricing, median pricing, and compare it to the lowest, that's about a 25% change. We saw it come back up when the interest rates lowered at the end of the year, came back down, and now it's going back up. If I focus just on the detached homes in Carmel Valley, from here all the way down to this bottom number in November was a decline of 25%. But we're now 2 months of pricing increasing for single detached homes in Carmel Valley. So again, there are pockets of San Diego right now where pricing is going up. Now, let's go back and look at the county and some other data points that I pay attention to. The first is our inventory, the amount of homes that are actually on the market at any given time. I'll go back here so you can see in history. Actually, I'll go back about 20 years here, 18 years. Our inventory right now in San Diego County, here we go. It's down, I'm sorry, we're looking at active listings. Yep, active listings, all properties, there we go. Our inventory is below 3,000 units. And you can see from a historical standpoint where, back in 08, we were at 27,000 units. Here we are again, less than 3,000 units on the market. That's almost as low as it was in the hot market of late 2021 and early 2022. So that's a very, very low supply that's available for buyers that are out there. So that's normal at this time of the year, and we may see that number increase, which brings me to my next data point, which is how many new listings have come on the market. This January, we saw less homes come on the market in January than we have in any January going back decades. So what that means is our supply is not increasing very much, not at all. It's increasing on a very small scale. Let's talk about the buyer demand. We actually have a metric here that I look at that can kind of tell us what the buyer demand is. And this is one of the most interesting data points in showing how the market's changing right now. And that is this. The sales to list price ratio actually ticked up in January. This is the first time that this has happened since April of last year. Almost 8 or 9 months of declining buyer demand for properties, meaning that are showing that properties were selling further and further below their asking price. But now it's starting to tick up, which shows that buyer demand is back. So this is the first time buyer demand has ticked up in 9 months. Our inventory is low and not many homes are coming on the market. So you can see our buyer demand is up and our supply is shrinking, which is attributing to why our pricing is starting to flatline and in some pockets and areas actually start to go up. Now, let's talk about some other data points that are out there. First, Sales are up by 20% in January compared to the past couple of months. So that goes to show more buyers are out there writing offers and getting into escrow. It's up by almost 20%. Another thing to take into consideration is interest rates. Interest rates are actually down by almost a point from their height at the middle of last year. So for a 30-year mortgage right now, we're hovering right around the 6% or low 6% mark. Now, here's the thing. Most buyers aren't going out there and getting a loan for 6% on a 30-year fixed. Most buyers are going out there and strategically working with mortgage brokers or real estate agents who know how to craft offers such that they are getting buy downs on their rates. So most of the buyers we're working with and the smart ones that are out there are actually going into escrow more close to a 5 to low 5% interest rate on a 30-year fixed. Now, a couple of other data points that I can't show you here is simply the fact that we do a lot of business. We talk to a lot of real estate agents. And so we hear on the ground what's going on. Some of the things that we're hearing is first, every new listing that an agent I know that I have or agents have, when they launch it and have their first initial open house, some of these properties have 40, 50, 60 people coming through these open houses. I'm hearing about multiple offers on some properties. Now, this isn't like 2021 and 2022 where there's 20, 30, 40 offers, but this is a situation where there might be 2 or 3 or 4 offers. We're seeing homes go into escrow in shorter time periods, some of them, many of them within a week. In my own neighborhood here in January, 4 homes went on the market. 3 of them sold within a week and 1 did not. Why didn't that one sell? Well, their pricing was completely out of line. It was too high. So some properties are getting multiple offers, and typically these are properties that are priced correctly. These are properties that are in good condition. These are properties that don't have anything wrong with them. Maybe there's no power lines. They're not backed up to a busy street. The good properties are starting to sell first, which is an indication of the market changing and picking up a little bit. Let's see here. What does this mean now if you are a buyer? If you're a buyer, what does this mean? What does this data mean to you? First, it's very possible that we have already hit the bottom of the market in regards to changing in price. In fact, again, as I mentioned, some areas, pockets, zip codes are already on an upward trajectory right now. So for buyers who are waiting for the bottom of the market, you may have already missed it. Or we are just getting there. For those of you who recently purchased a home in December or recently in escrow in January, good for you. You may have perfectly timed the market. The next thing you have to understand and what this means for buyers is if there's a good property and it's priced correctly, be prepared that you might be competing with 1 or 2 other buyers if it's a popular property. The next thing you want to understand from a buyer's perspective is this. I don't anticipate a big wave or flood of new inventory to hit the market. Now, we've seen more homes come on the market and it is listing season, but I talk to sellers every day, and there are a lot of sellers who say, look, I'm happy with my very low interest rate, and so I don't want to move, buy another home with a higher interest rate. So what that means is there may not be a large push of inventory or new homes for you to choose from come this spring and summer. The next thing to understand is, as a buyer, you may see competition simply because there is a lot of pent-up demand. There are buyers who have to buy, and many buyers have been sitting on the sidelines for the past 8 months, and they may be getting back into the market now if they see signs of things changing, and there may be a rush or more buyers than there have been in the past 8 months. If you're a seller, what does this mean? It means that in order to get your home sold, it's very possible, if you're priced correctly, that you may get a couple of offers on your property and you may get your asking price. Okay. But again, if you're overpriced, buyers aren't willing to, pursue those overpriced properties right now. Buyers are still being conservative. Even in those instances of multiple offers, we're not hearing stories of the price going above the list price. It's usually they'll have 1 or 2 at the list price and a buyer to choose from. If you have a property and you're considering selling, it may still take some time if there are deficiencies to the property. Meaning, if your home backs up to power lines, it backs up to a major road. If there are things wrong with it or in disrepair, it may not fly off the shelf. You may not have multiple offers, and you need to take that into consideration. The last thing is to consider is if you own a home and you're considering selling it, think about the buying side. Okay, the buying side, we may be at the bottom and we may be in a market where things are starting to change. So just think ahead of the curve in regards to what your next home is going to look like. Now, the last question I get is, Kurt, you pay attention to all this data. What does this mean for the future? We don't know. There's a lot of world factors that are out there. The feds are still increasing interest rates, although it's not affecting mortgage rates too drastically because banks are wanting to lend. They have been going through a dry spout the past 8 months. And so they've been keeping interest rates relatively flat and in check for the past couple of months. Again, I anticipate that we're not going to see a flood of inventory hit the market in the normal numbers we see this spring and summer. Most sellers are being conservative and wanting to stay in their home with their low interest rates, which means if the buyer demand increases, we may see pricing start to tick up as we've already seen in some other areas. So this is good news for the real estate market. It is a lot of different information than what we've been seeing and hearing for the past 8 months. I hope this information helps you make an informed decision. Thanks for watching.